Welcome to Infertility Unfiltered, where experts on fertility and warriors are joining forces to share with you some tips, tricks, lessons, and inspiration so that you can take back control of your fertility journey and get your baby on board. I'm Jennifer Robertson, and today I am so honored to be joined with Amy Klein. So, Amy is a journalist. She is the author of the newly released book, The Trying Game: Get Through Fertility Treatment and Get Pregnant Without Losing Your Mind, which is based on the Fertility Diary column that she wrote for the new York Times Motherlode Blog for 3 whole years, which blows my mind. She's also just recently wrote an article for NBC News on being an older mum, which I really resonated with. And today we're actually going to be talking about one of the chapters in her book about baby envy and how you can tackle the insensitive comments, tell people to mind their own business, and all of those things. And if you stick around to the end, we are going to tell you how you can get your hands on a copy of Amy's book as well. So, thank you so much for joining us, Amy. It is an absolute honor to have you here. Now, before we kick off and get into all of the juicy stuff, I want to know how did you get onto this path? And if you could tell us just a little bit about your story, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Well, I got pregnant quite easily after my wedding when I was 41, but I couldn't seem to hold a pregnancy, so I miscarried a few times before I started the fertility journey. And after my second miscarriage, I started on the regular journey of a fertility person. I started doing IUIs, and then I did IVF, and then I still kept miscarrying. So I had 10 doctors, 9 rounds of IVF, and finally I was with a reproductive immunologist who helped me carry my baby to term after 4 years. So that's the condensed version of the story.
Excellent. And how did you get onto, so you're a journalist, so you were able to document your story as you were going on the New York Times. How was that to be, so exposed while you were going through the ups and downs?
It's hard to believe, but back in 2011 and 12, when I started doing this and writing about this, nobody was really talking about it. And I couldn't believe it because I was looking for information and I couldn't really find any information like you'd find on articles today everywhere, in every magazine, every newspaper finally covers it. But back then, nobody was talking about it. And I just thought, wow, I've stepped into this crazy world, where women line up at 7 in the morning in New York City before they go to their law offices. And you have these old magazines and men have to masturbate to in this sperm collection room. And it just felt like this crazy secret skull and crossbones type of world that nobody was talking about. So as a writer, my writer self recognized that as a good story, a good story. But I didn't expect, and this was for Instagram and maybe for the heyday of Twitter. So I wasn't expecting mean comments or insensitive things that people would say online. You're too old, you're too selfish. I just didn't expect, I didn't understand why anybody would have anything negative to say about it. And that was hard to experience while I was on hormones. Today, maybe if someone writes something, I would just laugh or just whatever, but while you're going through hormones and to have people, there were hundreds of supportive comments, and even to this day, people see my book and they're like, oh, I'm so excited I followed your journey when I was going through my journey, and that was beautiful. But of course, the 1 or 2% of the people who are not nice, it hurts you, especially when you're in hormones. So that was hard. But hopefully I educated and helped a lot more people than, the weirdos.
Yes, I have no doubt that you did. Now, can we talk about a specific chapter in your book, and it's about the envy, you know, like the comparison on all of that, and dealing with the insensitive comments. Can you walk us through your experience and give us some tips for navigating, you know, the insensitive comments? Because it sounds like you
Right.
are pretty much an expert based on your column as well.
Well, it all started, and it did this. I wrote about it in my column. I think this was one of my first columns. Was like, someone called me, and she wasn't even a good friend. She just called me. She invited me out to go for a manicure, and I couldn't go for some, blessed reasons. I can't say I was blessed in this journey, but she called me. She's like, "Let's go out for a manicure," and I was like, "No, I can't." And she said, "Oh, I just wanted to tell you I'm pregnant." I just started crying on the phone, and I was just thinking, why is this person wanted to tell me in person that she was pregnant? And, and then it started a fight with my husband, because he was like, why can't you just be happy for her? Her pregnancy doesn't take anything away from you. And I just said, I'm sorry, I'm not that good of a person. And especially back then when people didn't really have so much awareness of fertility. There's this expectation that you should be happy for other people, that you should go to their baby showers, that you should go to their wedding parties, that you should just, um, you know, give all of yourself, because it doesn't have anything to do with you. And one of the things that I want to talk about, that I talk about a lot in the book, especially in the emotional chapters, is people don't understand what we've gone through, and people have a lot of expectations, but um, the longer that you're going through this, the harder it is to be happy for someone else. And, when my younger sister um, was pregnant, um, and she deserved to be pregnant, how we in the infertility decide who can be and who can't be, because she had suffered through miscarriages too. I said, "Oh, I'm happy for you." I said the right thing, but when she started complaining to me about her symptoms, I just thought to myself, nuh-uh, no, I was kidding when I said I was happy for you, but like, I cannot do this. Like, I can't be there for your, symptoms of pregnancy, or your heartburn, or your depression, or whatever it is. Like, I'd love to be that person, but I'm just not right now. And so, like, one of the things that I talk about in Baby Envy chapter is the permission to take care of yourself despite what other people's expectations are. And, you know, um, I know both sides of it, as you do, because like, I have been pregnant, and I've had the the happy hormones coursing through me, and I know what it feels like to want to share it with the world and to be elated. And it's definitely a hormonal thing. And I was you know final pregnancy was my fifth pregnancy, so tempered with caution. But I get the sentiment of wanting to share with everyone and wanting everyone to be as happy for you as you are, but some people just can't be. And one of my favorite things that always makes me cry when I think about it, and I talk about it in that chapter, is one of my best friends that I know since I'm 3 years old, and she had her first kid at 25, and she called to tell me, and she said, "I just wanted you to know that I'm pregnant." And by the way, this is her fifth child while I was still trying for my first. She said, "I just want you to know that I'm pregnant, and I don't need you to be happy for me. I just needed to let you know." And like, I'm still crying now, because she said, "I don't need you to be happy for me." Like, that is like the nicest thing that someone could ever tell you, is like, I'm not putting my expectations of this on you. I recognize that it's hard for you. Like, that was the most beautiful thing that anyone could have ever said to me. So, you know, I want people, we're talking about baby envy, but it's more like, I want people to allow themselves the feelings that they have. And I think there's this phrase like, don't add suffering to pain.
Mhm.
So, like, when we're going through infertility, we have a lot of pain, but we don't need to pile on with suffering by being like, how could you be so mean? How could you be so mean? How could you be so, maybe other people will say that, like my husband, like, why can't you be happy for her? You don't need to add on that judgment onto you. Like, just the bottom line is, like, when my sister was pregnant and I couldn't be happy for her, it was more like, I've been going through this for 4 years, and I don't have any happiness in me. It's not like I need to be happy for you. I don't have happiness. Like, it's not there. Like I don't have it. So I think like don't add pain to suffering is, um, accept your feelings and don't pile on and add judgment on those feelings of what type of person you should be and who you have to be and what you have to do. And like my friend who had her 5 kids is a social worker, and she's extremely empathic. But most people are not going to be like, they're just the pregnant women who are going to want you to come to their shower, who don't understand why you can't even throw them a baby shower, or your mother-in-law who's like, she's having a baby, I want to talk about it all the time. Like I had a relative, I had a relative who not only was my sister pregnant with her first, but my younger brother was also expecting his 5th. So can you imagine, like, and I have a relative who was talking about like what kind of clothing she was going to knit them. And she was talking to me on the phone, and I was just thinking, I know I present like a very tough exterior, but no, this is not okay. Why are you telling me about this? And I didn't say it out loud. So I don't know if I say this in my book, or I say it a lot on a lot of Facebook groups. Like I say, happy in public and voodoo in private.
Mm-hmm.
So like, not obviously, you're not voodooing, and you don't want anyone to experience miscarriage, and you don't want them to have infertility. You just get this feeling like, can't you just wait for me to have my baby first, like before you have your 3rd and your 4th, or just like, it's too much. Because when you're going through infertility, you're going through this frozen time, and I think we all know a little bit about this now with coronavirus, this feeling of being frozen in time.
Yeah.
But when you're going through infertility and you're in this never land, maybe you're not like the single people who are either happily single or looking to get married, and you're not with the family people. You're kind of stuck in limbo. And then these pregnancy announcements and these ultrasound pictures and these baby showers and these baby parties, it's like just another reminder of what you don't have. And so, I don't have to describe to infertile people what baby is like, and maybe I need to explain it to people who are not, who just, there's that word, like, why can't you just be happy? Why don't you just adopt? Why don't you just relax? Like, the just is what always kills me.
Yeah, look, I love everything about that. I love the difference, and you say it so well, between pain and suffering. We're in pain, we are in pain, but we don't need to suffer as well by punishing ourselves for having these feelings. I love that. And so in terms of, the insensitive comments, like, do you have strategies, like actual strategies that you can share with us of how you handled those particular circumstances when people said something that perhaps wasn't so nice or sensitive?
Well, I have actually a little chart. I don't know what page it's on in here that talks about things you can say instead of "I'm so happy for you," because sometimes that just even you can't even say it. So, like, you can say, "You must be so excited," or "How do you feel?" Or "What great news," and it just seems a little bit easier for me to say those kind of things just on someone else's news, or "Wow, that should be something," or "What are you having?" or just something besides, like, I can't say "I'm so happy for you."
I love that. So it's like this script, because a lot of the time, I think it's the fear as well. Like, all of a sudden we're put on the spot and we're like, oh, and it starts the downward spiral. But if we have a prepared answer of, this is what I can say straight away, and then we can, as you said, we can go back in private and delve through it right there and then. But I think it's being put on the spot. So I love that, a bit of a script of some things that you can actually dig out when you're put on the spot.
I also have a little scripted letter called, like, Dear Pregnant Girlfriend, which is a letter to your, like, best friend about, like, what you're going through right now. Like, I'm happy for you, and I know, this is hard for me, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to take it away from you, and I want to be there for you, and I'll totally be there for you as soon as your baby's born, but I, might need to take some space right now. And You might lose some people along the way. I can't lie. I lost some friends, but I gained, look, I just met you, right? So I gained a lot of friends along the way too. And it's hard to remember that when you're going through infertility, it's one phase of your life because it feels like one long, endless, never ending phase. But it's one section of your life, and hopefully your old and dearest friends will be there and will be back. And sometimes some people don't come back, and some people take breaks, and some people, it's just like 3 years of my entire life. It's just a little section of my life. But
It's funny you say that because it feels like it's so much longer, doesn't it? That it's this snippet. And I always say this is a chapter. It's a really hard chapter, but it's a chapter.
And I think you can also just say to someone who says, like, why don't you just do this? Or I wish this. You can just say, I'm really, I think it's important to tell people what you need because people don't understand. And most people, even with the insensitive comments, are trying to be helpful. And that's the title of my book, is like the trying game, because everything about it is trying. So they're trying to be helpful. So maybe, and it really did, I'm not going to school the readers of the New York Times on what they're supposed to say to me in their comments. But a close friend, I might say, this is a really hard time for me and I'm having a hard time. What I really need from you right now is to just not ask me if I'm pregnant or when I'm going to be pregnant, or just can we just talk, and if I have something to share, then I'll share it. So I think it's really, once you realize what you need, because not everybody needs the same thing, but once you realize what you need, you set the boundaries for other people. Like, no, don't ask me if I'm pregnant. No, don't tell me about everyone who's pregnant. I don't want to hear about it. Or maybe please email me if you're pregnant. Like, just tell people, because they don't know. And I like to think that people have our best interests at heart and they want to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do find that people, they react a certain way based on their experience. And if you don't have experience with infertility, like, you don't know what's insensitive or what's not. And it's up to us to be able to communicate to them. So I'm hearing three things with that. So the first thing is having a standard response that you can go to them with, when there's a pregnancy announcement or something like that. The second is being able to communicate with them how you're feeling. And then the third thing is learning how to ask for what you need in that moment. I love it. I love everything about that, Amy. So thank you so much for joining us. Now, are you able to tell all of us, how can we get our hands on a copy of that book that you're holding there, and how can we find you after this?
Yeah, so you can get it obviously on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever books are sold. I also narrate the audiobook. So if you're interested in audiobooks, that's a fun read. And you can find me at the Trying Game Infertility Book is my website. And my Instagram is the Trying Game Infertility Book, where I do lots of talks and interviews with people on Instagram.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, Amy. And thank you for joining us. Now, if you enjoyed this video, there is a whole lot more where this came from. Make sure you give it a little bit of love, share it, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to this channel as well so you don't miss any of the other videos that we have as part of this Infertility Unfiltered series. So thank you so much for joining us.